So sometimes with football, it's fun. It's kind of like a roller coaster, but our team didn't hurt us this week. It was the bye. I wanted to say bye week blues originally, but it was more of like a bye week break, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, I got a little buy from them hurting us. I'm like, yes, let's go.
Yeah. So the thing with the Patriots right now, and I was thinking about this today long and hard. If I look back on this season so far, because obviously, look, there's 4 games left, 3-10. It's not glamorous, but
Yeah.
I'm not ready to say the season was a failure, considering this is what we expected them to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expected the Patriots to not be very good, and they're not.
He muted himself, folks. Oh, he's back.
I did that last week too. Um, After beating Cincinnati, I remember the optimism on the timeline was so high that I was like, y'all weren't really really locked into the whole like they're gonna be bad. Like y'all just said it because the way that people are upset, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, did you expect the team to be good? Because like it feels like you got your hopes up following that win in Cincinnati, and then obviously you get a close game versus Seattle, and the vibes were pretty high at that point. Everyone's like, okay, like we could have won that. A few things go differently here or there, and that would have been better. But I think for a lot of people that it was just the reality setting in, and so you know yeah, they got their hopes too high. Some people got their hopes too high, and the Patriots are where they are now, and I think it shouldn't bother us because it's what we expected. But at the same time, I do understand people being kind of annoyed with the how, not the what. Like, okay, we knew they were going to be bad. We didn't know they'd look kind of like this.
Yeah, that's been my whole thing where everyone's like, it's like, look, there's some games where like I shake it off. Like I always throw. She's not even here, and I throw in a pun for Taylor Swift. Like San Francisco, I'm like, okay, team is whatever. The only loss, like, and also Houston too. Houston was just another game where I'm like, that's a bad football team.
Yeah.
But if there's games where I'm like, you could have had that, where it was more just like disappointing, was Tennessee, Jacksonville, and then last Sunday against the Colts. Honestly, was the first time in a long time I sat on a couch where I felt like crap after a loss. I was just like,
Yeah.
I just sat there in silence. My wife wanted to put up the Christmas tree, and I was just like, I am not in the mood for any of that.
Yeah, yeah. The Colts loss was particularly frustrating. It was the first one I would say as well where I was like, wow, that pissed me off. Although the Jacksonville loss also pissed me off that way, but India, I was like, man, like I cannot believe what it like. I bought in, and you know
Yep.
what? This is my fault. I bought in. I'm like, wait a minute, like the team, they're moving the football. It doesn't look crazy. They have a lead. They're playing good defense, and all of a sudden they're marching down the field. And I'm like, no, that's not supposed to. That's not part of the plan. And then obviously they lose the game. So it's tough when like intellectually you're like, oh yes, this is a bad team. I know that. Duh.
Yeah.
It's just hard when like the fan in you the fan in you takes over for a game, and then you're snapped back to reality like, oh yes, that's right, we weren't going to win that game because we are a bad team.
Yeah, that's the real thing with that one where like look, it was great, the 2-point conversion. But the one sense of optimism, honestly, and I say this out of all the teams that are in the top 10 of the draft, and I know I'm still going by your phrase, we cheer for wins, we take the losses, but two-part question I'm going to spin this into. One is just a certain point of what you said, we'll cheer for wins, losses come as they may. The other part to it as well that I want to bring back for people who I think really got their hopes up high was after the Bears win, when everyone's like, oh, if you could pick like 2 games and then they're here and then they do this. And I'm like, okay, we didn't realize at the time that Chicago was really going down this rock
Yep.
bottom downward spiral that they were. And then now it's like the last few games, like the Rams game too. I was even like, okay, that was just simple stupidity that Buffalo decided to copy on Sunday, where they're like, we're going to run cover 0 against the Rams. And then when you
Yeah,
see
and then
Stafford
get
doing
burned on it.
this,
Yep. Yeah. That's actually the first thing I thought of. I'm like, yeah, Stafford doesn't know his way around the cover 0. He had plenty of practice.
to where I feel like it's like you're right. There's still a lot of people out there where it's like they didn't really grasp it. It's like you're gonna be bad. Okay. Oh, we're really bad.
Yeah.
Where it's like if they are where, and I'll be honest with you, if the Patriots next year are at that, because I'd rather be right now where the Patriots are than where their opponents on Sunday are with the Arizona Cardinals, who kind of are, for lack of a better word, really peeing down their leg these last few games. They're 6-4. They've lost 3 straight. I don't. It's just look. I like Arizona. I want them to do well. Not this weekend, obviously, but I think this is a really good test, feel it out game, considering, look, the Patriots are playing a team that's look, besides the fact that I don't hear Spiro call the game, which he's just driving me crazy the last couple of weeks calling the Pats.
Yeah.
It's Tom McCarthy, which last time I think he called the Pats game was the Aussie game. It's a shout out for the true ones out there. But it's going to be interesting to see because you have this team that's truly desperate with their backs against the wall against a team with nothing to lose. You know, it's 3-10. They're coming off the bye. Meanwhile, you got Arizona where, look, Trey McBride could cook us. Marvin Harrison Jr. could come alive. Although I've been saying this all year long, Gonzo and him is going to be fun to watch.
Oh my goodness, right? That's gonna that game is exciting in pieces, right? I think you on the whole, you're like, the Cardinals, like they're probably better than us, but things can get kind of funky because they're not that good. But I think there are little pockets of the game that I think are really exciting. You're like, all right, cool, you got the matchup, Gonzo versus Marvin Harrison. You're like, oh, cool, that's going to be a sick matchup to watch. You think about, Kyler Murray versus our defense, right? We know the defense is kind of hurting, especially with quarterbacks getting outside of the pocket. So you want to see that improvement as far as the quarterback contain. They talked about, we can do it. And to be fair, teams haven't really got off on the Patriots, outside of the pocket the last couple of weeks, right? We all kind of expected Anthony Richardson would do that, and he really didn't. So people are feeling pretty good. We'll see. But I'd like to see how the defense goes ahead and and contains Kyler Murray in the pocket, especially because that front seven is not good. Then you add in Arizona's running backs. I think James Conner can go for a big game and all of that. But I think the disappointing thing for me in this game is that the Pats offense
and the amount of good games it's up against.
Yeah, that could be a very frustrating game. I think for the offensive line, I know they're getting Cole Strange back. They activated him off the reserve pup list today, so he'll be back. So maybe you can solidify that interior because holy cow, it's a mess. I don't love the matchup with our O line trying to block that D line or their linebackers, and I don't think that'll be I think that's where it'll be a bad Patriots loss because I've come to realize that the Patriots losses that I find the most frustrating are the ones where you get bought in, okay, cool, the team could kind of win it, and then they do something stupid, and you're like, holy shit, y'all did it again. The ones that I don't enjoy, right, the kind of losses that I think wow, that was just I don't enjoy that, are the kind where the offense doesn't even get to do anything because they're just being destroyed by the line. So you're like, I don't even get any cool Drake May highlights out of this. I get nothing. You know what I mean? I get three and outs. That's it. That's all I got going. And I think this could be that kind of game. Even though, Arizona's secondary isn't crazy or anything like that. I don't like the matchup. And I'm my faith in the Patriots offensive operation at this point, could not be lower. But on the other side of it, I'm interested to see how the Cardinals play it, as far as their league-wide perception, because I don't know if they're good, right? I know they're not bad, but I don't know if they're good. I think they're one of those teams that can
Frisky.
Yeah, they can beat they will beat the bad teams. Oh yeah, they go out there, they're gonna whoop a bad team and move on. And they'll keep it close with some good ones, but are they actually good themselves? And I don't know. And I think this game is going to go a long way to showing me that, because if they can't just run the Patriots out of the stadium, that'll be a little alarming, because that offense should have its way with our defense. I think that that's a matchup they should be able to exploit. And if Kyler Murray is who everyone tells me he is, then that should be no problem, right?
Because even 2 years ago, Kyler Murray was on his way to doing that, and then he decided his foot pivoted the wrong way, and obviously, look, Raekwon McMillan got a pick six, which you're playing against someone pretty bad if he's getting a pick six in that game. My thing with Sunday is simple. Well, it's just the fact too, because I remember a few weeks ago, my wife and I she was talking about she realized the Bills and the Lions are playing, and she's like, "Oh, that's gonna be awesome!" We're the Patriots are on at that time, and she's like, "Oh, they're gonna get flexed. There's no way. Why are they against that?" And I'm like, they're in Arizona. It's not getting flexed.
Yeah.
You literally have that game. There's Steelers, Eagles, there's Bucks, Chargers, and then there's us.
Yeah.
It's all these great
matchups, and we're gonna end up watching the Patriots, because that's just kind of the kind of sickos we are.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, did you see the Bills-Lions game? It was crazy. I'm like, no, I was watching Drake May. Watching my one and only, my rotational phone background right now.
I love it.
But the one thing I love with him, though, is the fact that his underlying numbers, I don't know how much attention, look, you and I obviously know each other for almost a few years now, how much attention you pay to the underlying numbers. I'm not someone who swears by them, but when I see him on Twitter and I'm seeing his name like next to, Jared Goff right there with like around the Lamar Jackson status and even Josh Allen, I'm kind of like, he's doing something right to the point now where, and look, we'll talk about this, but obviously, look, the 2024 free agency class, which, look, is bad. But I want to say something too. No one really wanted to come here because they knew the team was going to be bad. Now it's kind of that where Arizona's in that same boat now, where it's like, hey, both teams have potential. Both teams have quarterbacks. Both teams have a lot of money to spend this offseason. So it's one of those things now where I'm hearing reports last night, hey, T. Higgins wants top of the market money. Is he worth it? I don't know, but the Patriots need a wide receiver one, and he's the kind of guy saying out there. But remember, we did that exercise last time where we were talking about potential trade targets?
Yeah.
Why not call the Eagles after the year about A.J. Brown?
Yeah. So what is going on over there? I know, Brandon Graham made some comments. The team, the team vibe isn't super high. Like the vibes are not super high on this year's team. And I know that, Sirianni has come out and said this team feels more like 22 than 23, but the vibe that, the beat writers that I follow, the vibe I'm getting from them is like things aren't super chill with AJ Brown. And I'm wondering, and I haven't read this, but I'm wondering if that points to an issue with him and Jalen Hurts, and if that's the case, it's him or Jalen. If it's between your franchise quarterback and your franchise wide receiver, you're probably just going to keep your quarterback and move on from AJ Brown. That would be a sick acquisition. That would obviously be very good. Would the Patriots do it? I think they would. I think they would. I know. I think the Patriots, based on, and I know I've said it before, like it doesn't matter how close you got on a lot of, it's like, oh, the Patriots were close to Calvin Ridley, but you didn't get him. I do think what the aggression, right? Because rewind. That is to say, people always say the Patriots are interest warriors. They're like, oh, they were involved in, they were,
like
interested in, they're just in there, and they never close the deal. I think though, with what we can learn from all of that, all of the noise, is that the Patriots are after a wide receiver upgrade, and they're looking to, make a big upgrade, not just like, oh, we want someone who's like kind of good. They're looking for someone like they want a guy. Yeah, they're like, hey, we are looking for a guy. And I think if AJ Brown is available, I think the Patriots will have no choice but to, like, if they are looking for the guy and he is the guy and has been the guy everywhere he's been, if he's available, I would imagine the Patriots look at it and think, hey, we could probably make something happen here.
Is he available? Do we have the money? And, can he improve our team? Which it's yes, yes, and yes. He could be available. They have the money. Because that's the thing with this coming free agency. Look, you have over $130 million to spend. The other important thing, too, because I know we stressed this all last offseason, there is nowhere of in-house where it's like a significant person to lock up this offseason.
Yep.
Like there's like, look, besides John, and I know everyone says, oh, Jonathan Jones, this and this. The fact that he's leading the chance when in the few wins that they've had, that says something. Yeah. You need to keep those glue guys together. But then, and here's the other thing too. A lot of those contracts that were signed last offseason have backdoor escape clauses. You can get out of, not like a lot of them pretty, but you can get out of a lot of them to where it's not going to totally kill your team. It's not going to, oh, hey, if you get out of this now, you're screwed for the next couple of years. Kind of like what the LA Chargers are almost through because they have a lot of cap next year as well. That's another team to watch for. But no, I look at this year, it's like, you can't just go out there and say, hey, we're going to sign Chuks Okorafor, we're going to sign Antonio Gibson, Austin Hooper, Nick Leverett, and a couple other guys, and KJ Osborne, and call it a day. You're not going to get away with doing that this offseason. No, you have to go out there and, sign and trade for someone or trade for someone, get a receiver, get a guard, get a tackle, get a defensive tackle, get a quarterback, get a linebacker. Because now I'm looking more on those guys where, hell, I know it's 20 years ago. Go try to find that disgruntled guy like what Corey Dillon was, Rodney Harrison was. I know it's and everyone's going to say, oh, but those Patriot teams are good. Yes, but I'm trying to get the same vibe where, you go get the player who's in a bad situation. I know the Patriots aren't in a good situation, but go get a player who himself knows he can play better, wants to go somewhere to prove it, kind of like what T. Higgins wants, kind of what A.J. Brown wants. Deebo Samuel's another fun little question mark there, So, and also too, the other one as well. If you want to go get Titus Howard, be my guest. There's like all these things to where now it's like, hey, there's no excuse for Elliott Wolf. Last year, the excuses were, hey, it's gonna be the first true year of a rebuild. It's not gonna be fun. But 2025, look, there's this offseason, we're gonna talk about it a lot. There's no excuses to why you're not going and swinging for the fences or landing the guy you want to land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially now that the quarterback's soft,
Yeah, you figured out the hard part. Now get him the guy. I was thinking on Sunday, a guy that I think the Patriots could realistically land as far as wide receiver goes, and I know that this is a more polarizing name, but I think he can be the one. Is you think of Christian Watson from Green Bay? You watch him in that game, and he had, Loki had a pretty big day. He was over I think about 20, 8 catches. Obviously, he had the fumbles. So, it looked bad, but you see him have that kind of production. And in the drops, sorry, I had mentioned the drops. He do be dropping the football, but I think when you look at the way Green Bay is constructed, as far as their wide receiver room goes, he is fourth, right? And he was drafted to be the top guy, but that's Jaden Reed. That's not going to happen. Dontavian Wicks is a better player, and Romeo Dobbs obviously leads that team in all relevant categories for his position. When you look at all of those guys and you have Christian Watson on your depth chart, like, sure, I think he's a nice to have, but I think, if the Patriots come calling like, hey, we have a nice saucy second or third rounder here for you, what's the word on Christian Watson? I think the Packers would be inclined to listen. I think he could be what maybe they thought Tyquan could be, like just like a burner, like, hey, you put him out there and just get him down there, and he's down there somewhere. He'll make the big play for you. So I think that's another guy. Speaking of you mentioned AJ Brown. I'm like, well, if you don't land a top tier guy, like, if you don't land the best guy in AJ Brown, who would be the best wide receiver available, obviously. A second tier kind of guy is Christian Watson, who I think can be that guy. Not AJ Brown, obviously, but I think he'd be a big 1,500 yard receiver a year, 1,500 yard a year receiver.
It would be one of those names where I feel like a lot of fans would just be like, "Oh, why? What's up with him? Why him? He's not a big name, and this." And then by the season, everyone's like, "Oh, wow! Like, look, Christian Watson, we love him. He's great. He's this. He's this. He's that." Look, this offseason is just the possibilities are going to be endless. It's the fact too that this offseason truly has that weird vibe that 2021 did. And now when I say that, I don't expect Elliott Wolf to go out there and irresponsibly spend on a bunch of people, kind of like what Bill did that offseason,
Yep.
But look, now I go back on that one. Look, there was some blunders like how Johnny Smith turned down for everyone saying, oh, hey, this is just, no, he wasn't used properly. But meanwhile, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, those aren't signings that anyone should regret. Those are signings that have really helped this football team over the last few years. So you just got to kind of take it with what it is and then kind of go from there. I'm not too worried, because even next year, if next year were to go like 22 does, obviously, besides the disgusting losses to Vegas, there's that sense of hope and optimism that, like, hey, 2026 is the year where we can truly catapult ourselves. Not saying, hey, back in the picture of the Super Bowl, but seeing with our division, look, Miami's a big question mark every year because of Tua's health. Buffalo's going to be Buffalo, and the Jets, well, it could be worse. We could be the Jets right now. I know we both have the same record, but
but one of us is really, really bad, and one of us is the Patriots. Yes. Man, you can't have those kind of expectations and just skate on being bad. Like, people were like, "Hey, this is a Super Bowl. Like, they are going to the Super Bowl. Like, they were a common AFC pick. Oh, they're going to go to the championship game. They're going to lead the division. They're going to do this, this, and that." And it's like, and in the result, you are in a dogfight for fourth place with the Patriots. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. No, it just, like, for them too, look, because remember, after they beat us that Thursday night, their fans were starting to go like, oh, we're back. We're this. Yep. And then, look, those losses kept piling up, and then the sweetest one was still when Jacoby went down and beat them and, took care of business, and that truly killed their season. But look, even down the stretch here, like, I don't want to even say it's going to be ugly, but, like, I want to pivot in that whole Gerard Mayo's coaching for his life thing. I think the only way that happens is and look, I know I'm going to tie things in, but I know CFL Toronto, like, team, look, I follow and cover. They just had that happen. Obviously, they won the championship. They had co-defensive coordinators this year. A really good defensive coordinator became available, so the coach went out there and poached him and got him. So now they have the one DC. I'm relating this back to the Patriots because I think the only way Mayo gets fired is if someone really good becomes available or has interest in wanting to come here.
Yeah.
I don't think, because if you fire him after year one, Robert Kraft's going to know, look, it's going to be a bad look on me. The man, look, well, the Hall of Fame's a whole nother topic, but the man who's really trying to bang his own drum is, I'm my own man. I kind of helped make the team, not like I'm the sole responsible fluff documentary piece sending his book to the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters every year kind of guy. He doesn't want to become that owner that's just going to do snap reactions because the fans are mad or because the media is doing this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is, I got to say with Jerron Mayo, was Jonathan Gannon a good head coach year one? No, people are making fun of him for that stupid fire in your gut speech he had right before the season started last year. Dan Campbell, the kneecap thing everyone uses now is like cannon fodder for them. But 3 years ago when he was introduced, everyone was like, okay, what the hell is this? Who are you?
Yep.
And now look at him. Teams will literally probably go out there and literally break kneecaps and ride lions over people for him. They will move mountains to make him there. So if Gerard can build that, because that's the thing too, no one's going to, that's the other thing. There was 24 years of the greatest coach in football history. Will he go to college now or not? We don't know.
Man,
but
that's an exciting storyline.
It is, and Drake May's alma mater too, which adds
layers to it. Oh goodness, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I just think Robert Kraft knows that deep down, if I were to fire Mayo because we go 3-14 in a year, and guess what, we were supposed to be bad. That just shows dysfunction, and he's not. Robert Kraft's not David Tepper.
Yeah, I didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't realize that people didn't think it was.
It was like Greg Bedard on Felger and Maz today, and I basically say that if something's got Felger, I'm going to basically quote a DM I did today. I said, if something has Felger attached to it, I'm not going to believe it. But if something had Weller attached to it, I'm going to believe it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe it with Felger, but I believe it with Weller. For folks out there, it's not referring to Sophie.
Yes, who is not here today. She should be down there somewhere, but she's not. That's silly. I think people should have made peace a long time ago with the idea that, like, hey, you're just, as far as the Patriots go, you're going to get whatever regime they brought in. At least 2 years. At a bare minimum 2 years. I personally think they're going to get at least 3 years. You know what I mean? I think Kraft is very much aware of that. I think he really
wants to win, but he knows deep down what the team is.
Yeah, I think he also relished the how the continuity of coaching that he had, right? I think that's the reason Bill stayed so long. He just really enjoyed that, and the reputation that comes with that. Obviously, you think of places that that don't have a ton of turnover at the coaching position. You think of like Pittsburgh, who's had three in their lifetime or something like that, or the Packers.
1969.
It's insane. You know what I mean? So
do you want to know another? Can I cut you off for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want to know another insane and Steelers stat? I believe it was 1988 the last time they finished in last place.
1988.
Yeah.
Holy shit. See, and I think when you think of those organizations, you think, oh, those teams have pretty good owners. I think Bob Kraft would be opposed to it because of the lack of continuity. I think he very much likes the familial atmosphere around the team, and he wants to be like, hey, we don't go through a lot of guys, like we are really loyal. So I think that this coaching staff, this regime has, at least 3 years. I think what we could see though is coordinator changes that are mainly to just, kind of quiet it down. I think DeMarcus Covington has, started off the year, really coaching his ass off, and they started getting pantsed, and it was damn near weekly. I wonder if a move for him would be in the cards.
This is a name that I've been starting to think of, and people are going to look at me and go, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Do you consider bringing Matt Eberflus in to run the defense? I know he had a really rough exit in Chicago, but for a while with the Indianapolis Colts, he was having some really solid defenses, and there's a reason why he got the head coaching gig. So it's just a name I'm throwing out there because we know, look, for as bad as it went in Chicago, someone's going to bring him in to run the defense. Look at what the Packers are doing right now ever since Robert Saleh's gotten there.
Yeah, Yeah, that's so fun. I don't know.
Steve Wilkes.
I would think someone less
who I think was a scapegoat for San Francisco last
year.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. I think if it's a move like I'm suggesting, where I think it's a move that's really just to kind of, you know, tide over the fans, or like essentially a publicity move, because I don't really think that, swapping defensive coordinators will change the problems with the defense, because it wasn't really a schematic issue throughout most of the start of the year, until again the last few weeks. It's kind of been a schematic issue, but prior to that, you're just like, all right, cool. They just don't have like the players, like they just don't have any guys, and so like that's the reason they're losing. That's the reason the defense is taking a step back. But I think if they were to looking to bring someone in to like give the fan base a boost on confidence, I don't think Matt Eberflus would be on the top of the list given how his tenure went. I just
a name that comes to mind.
Yeah, because think about it. Most people's first thought will be, "Oh, didn't he blow it in the Thanksgiving game?" That's now the conversation. So that's why I'm like, I think it, like, on paper, I would be all in on that.
It's kind of like when, and I feel like this name doesn't get brought up a lot, but the whole Ben McAdoo being brought in thing as well.
Yeah.
Where everyone's like, "Oh, Ben McAdoo is terrible." Remember him with the Giants? But
Yeah.
you don't really hear his name. You don't really see his name. One thing I'll say too, I know a lot of people have been on him. I would keep Alex Van Pelt for at least another year. I don't think you can give Drake May another offensive coordinator. I just don't think that's, no matter how the year ends, you have to keep that continuity. That's continuity you cannot afford to lose. I only throw Eberflus
100%.
or even a Steve Wilkes out there because, look, I think Steve Wilkes is a guy that would, get the fan base motivated. I'm not saying go out there and get Mike Zimmer when he's eventually let go by Dallas. God, good Lord, no. The only way I would get rid of AVP is if Daboll is fired by the Giants, which at this point, I don't really know what the hell's going to go on there. That team's just another dysfunctional mess all on its own.
Yep.
But one thing with Kraft, I really, really want to point this out for every bit of crap people have been talking about him. From the 5-year comment, which, look, that's just him saying, "Oh, I've known for a while that whenever Bill leaves, I'm going to name Gerard head coach." I don't think that was him after the Super Bowl being like, Bill, I'm going to fire you in 5 years and Gerard Mayo is going to be our head coach. No, I think it was just a figure of speech.
Yeah.
But I love, love, love the fact that Kraft's actually dedicating. He saw that player survey and said, "Hey, we're going to build a state-of-the-art facility, cold tubs, locker rooms, training facilities, gyms, all this stuff." The fact that, and look, Kansas City's starting to get on that reputation now where they just kind of say, "Hey, our facilities suck, but we win all the time." Meanwhile, New England now, I like the fact that, they're dedicating these new facilities to where, hey, we're going to have this, is a place you want to come play. State taxes and all that crap aside, it's something that shows that Kraft truly cares about wanting to bring people in here and making New England a destination again.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. I think people are upset. We know that people are upset.
Yeah.
I think they're just kind of lashing out on the team right now, and it is what it is. I think people are experiencing what it's like to be a really bad team for like the first time, because the Patriots last year weren't good. Obviously, Bill got fired.
They're bad on an accident, which I think it's worse than being bad on purpose.
Yeah, that's a good phrase. I think this team feels bad because you don't believe in the leadership, right?
Yeah.
I think if people felt better about Gerard Mayo as a coach, or any of his coordinators. I know AVP has been taking a lot of smoke, although he's people are starting to kind of get it with him. They're like, oh, wait a minute, like it's not all bad. It's not all bad. I think if people felt better about the coach, and then you obviously Elliot Wolf being the general manager, I think he kind of skates on a lot of this. It's not a very good roster. He should be under fire a little more than he's getting IMO. But I think if people had more confidence in the people at the front of the building, like as far as the coaching staff goes, the team wouldn't feel like it feels right now. Right now, the team you're watching, you're like, this is just not a very good team. I can see that with my eyeballs. And to think like, hey, the guys in charge, I'm not even sure they're like good enough for this. It feels worse.
But the vibes and the aura are pretty good, though, if you ask me. That's all I can say. But no, it's like I said, it's the fact that there's the quarterback there. If Drake still had its warts or his question marks, because like even though he beat us, like Anthony Richardson, look, like there's some stuff there where I'm like still got to work on.
Yep. Where Drake's, you're starting to feel like he probably needs to get good like really fast, because he looks like he needs a lot of work.
And yeah, that's the thing too. Like he's not a reclamation project. He's more of that. Analysts were like, "Hey, we were a little wrong to judge him. He's got the mechanics. He's got the intangibles to where now." And this is the other thing too with being bad for this year. say next year they go, and also I'll say this too: if they can go 2-2 down the stretch, I think that builds enough confidence to next year where you know what, hey, you had a tweet about this with the Chargers. So if you win one of those two games, but here's my kicker: week 18, you cost Buffalo the 1 seed, or like I don't want to like I would rather beat Buffalo that way than beat Buffalo with their starters playing and we get Mitch Trubisky versus Drake May on week 18. I'd rather not that happen.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like if you can beat Buffalo like you did last year, that's going to instill because like for them, look, they're going to the playoffs. They have Super Bowl aspirations. I have the memes on my phone from Fairly Odd Parents of this is where I put my Lombardi. If I had one memes, I'll post those when they lose in the playoffs. But for now with the Patriots, if you can do those, like let's think about it. If you have three of your final game, 3 of your last 4 against guaranteed playoff teams. Arizona, we'll see what happens, but I think it's basically they'd have to win out and have stuff happen. You go 2-2 down that stretch, you're going to have the fan base being like, hey, you know what? We're doing good. I know a lot of people still are going to be like, oh, New England's screwed up their draft position. I think regardless of what happens in the draft, and there's a couple quarterbacks that really disappointed me Saturday, which we'll talk that. You could still be in that position too, where if they were to move down next year, it would piss people off. But guess what? You get a King's ransom and you kind of add a couple extra picks for 26.
Yeah.
You're kind of in your driver's seat now to where you can control your own destiny. By the way, I was referring to the SEC championship game, the quarterbacks. Yeah. Injuries aside, I was just like, some of the footwork, especially from viewers, I was like, good Lord. But, so that's the one thing I look at this team where it's like for everyone saying, oh, it can't get worse. Yeah, but can only get better. And that's how you have to view it. You should not be viewing it as, oh, it could be worse. No, being worse is being the Giants and basically cleaning house and having to get a new quarterback at the same time. Yeah. Patriots have a coach, they have a GM, they have a quarterback. Now you just got to put it all together and go out there and hope for the best.
Yeah, people are just overreacting. I'm not thrilled with obviously the current state of the team or the leadership, but it is what it is. Like I think we need to give these guys a chance to just like to show us like it's looked rough to start, but again, you acknowledge what the roster is. I know they put together the roster, but you acknowledge what the roster is. Acknowledge it's going to get better next year. It has to get better next year, and we'll see what it looks like next year.
That's the thing too. Like even if I were to look ahead to next year, if they were to go 7-10 next year, that would be a major win. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
because I'm looking at next year already. They play the AFC North, which look that whole thing could just be you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
they're probably going to play Jacksonville or Tennessee, and if they finish in last place, they get the Las Vegas Raiders +2. They'll probably get the New York Giants as well. So there's going to be a lot of games next year that hey, you can go out there and win. And +2, you're going to play the NFC South, which. And I know you've been saying this because you post that SpongeBob meme involving David Tepper. But I like what Dave Canales is doing with them. I just want to go on that for a second. They're not. They're still bad.
Yes, but they don't feel bad.
No.
They don't feel. You're like, oh, this is not a good team, but like they don't feel bad. Like they're in those games. Bryce Young looks rejuvenated, man.
Rod Way fixed him. But that's the thing, like with him, like when I've seen his like victory videos, and I'm just like, he's the right guy to lead him. It's kind of like Dan Campbell. Like that's just find a coach with the initials DC. Maybe it's DeMarcus Covington, but you find a coach with DC, and it kind of like I'm thinking Carolina, like they're still a couple years away, but it's just the fact that they feel like they have the guy. You also don't hear much from David Tepper this year as well. He's kind of just gone off.
Cooled it down. Yep,
he's cooled it down. But like I look at that division as a whole now, like with next year where. Atlanta, like good Lord,
man, what are they doing?
Okay, I would rather be in the position we're in than they're in. Think about it. They were a team that was expected to take this leap, and now you have a quarterback who's paid a lot of money who's not playing well, and you have a 24-year-old rookie sitting on the bench waiting to play.
Yeah, and your defense is an absolute shambles. You've whiffed on a trade, right? Like that Judon trade, they sent us a third, and what the hell was that, right? Like, I don't even believe he's starting. So you look at that, they added all these high-priced free agents. They were talking about Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, and look at we have such an elite duo or whatever. And
Cincinnati misses Bates though.
My goodness, right? Cincinnati. Let's talk about Cincinnati.
I have one thing to say about Cincinnati. Everyone talks about the Giants giving up on Saquon.
Yeah,
that energy should be applied to why did the Cincinnati Bengals give up on Joe Mixon?
Yeah, that was weird.
They were about to release him, and the Texans were just like, "Hey, we'll give you like a 5th and a 6th," or
I
don't know the exact trade price, but they were like, "Hey, we'll give you this." Like,
yeah, I don't really understand that, but yeah, the Bengals are in a rough spot. Luckily, their offense is kind of legit. They kind of got some good players over there. Even though their offense is legit, I look at that defense and I'm like, this is not a 1 year rebuild. Like they can't rebuild that. Like they have to just kind of start all over. Cam Taylor-Britt has taken such a big step back. I have no idea what he's doing out there
Dax
anymore.
Hills doesn't look good either.
Yeah, and then he got hurt, and now, yeah, that is not a very good defense.
Yeah, like I think the Bengals, like, and I even remember too. This happened 2 years ago. Everyone was talking about Lou Anarumo being this next head coach, and then they lost to the Chiefs of the championship. And then I was just like, okay, well, like, and then all that talk just goes away so quickly.
Yeah,
I think honestly, that's the team that Ben Johnson goes to. I think Zach Taylor's kind of. It's not going to be a thing, but I think it's just, you know what? Hey, it's time for a change.
that would be fun.
We're here. Ben Johnson's kind of bringing a rejuvenated mind. Like even with other head coaches too. Like I know my father's this. I think I told you this. He's a Saints fan. He's talking about like, oh, Ben Johnson wants to come here. I'm like, if you're getting a Lions coach, you're getting Aaron Glenn. You're not getting Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
Ben's going to go where Ben wants to go to.
yeah.
But there's so many teams out there this year that like had those expectations that just like got let down. Even like look how we were saying earlier with Atlanta, where it was just like I still had Tampa winning that division because even though that defense is terrible too, but they're finding a way to getting it done. But the one team I got to say I've been impressed with throughout the season has been Seattle. Like I know they're just
My
like
goodness, right?
Yeah, like Mike McDonald's been good, but then also too Gino. We have to remember this with Gino though, where Gino basically, as long as he doesn't do stupid, they'll win football games.
Yeah, I think Gino's a good quarterback. I have absolutely no qualms in saying that. Yeah. I know it's Gino and he's a meme, and I get it, but like he's not a meme anymore. Like I think he's been a meme for so long that people just aren't. Everyone's kind of just waiting for him to turn back into a pumpkin.
I'm like, title, by the way,
that's not happening. Like he's a good quarterback, man. Like you could do a lot worse than Geno Smith. Like he's good. So like if he plays well, they're just going to win games because he will often play well. I think obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba, his emergence has been incredible. I think he's 5th in yards, 9-11 on the year. Yep. He's having a great year, and you're like, this is what you can do. You can build that team around like Geno's just going to be your quarterback for a little bit. I know that people kind of want them to like draft a quarterback, just draft someone high. I don't know. I think you can probably stick with Geno, and you can take a guy in this, on day 2 and kind of develop him from there.
He's essentially too on like a year-to-year deal as well, where like they know that if they want to bring him back, they can bring him back easily, or if they want to cut him, they can just cut him. And then look, with all the teams in the NFL right now, you have the one team where look, they're either going to win it all or they're going to have just a bad game at the worst possible time, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Because like, look, I've seen the Patriots, and also like. The win was brought up a thing ago. Remember the Week 13 game against Cleveland back 2013? They were down 26-14 with like a minute to go, and then they got the onside kick.
Oh, the Patriots?
Yeah.
2013. Yeah.
Because I remember the next day I was in college at the time, and a Patriots fan, also a guy I was in class with, also passed me. He looks at me, he's like, you didn't even say like that was a good one. He looks at me and goes, they should not have won that game. And I'm just like, how many times can we say that with Kansas City this year? So that's where I'm saying like, they're either going to win it all or like they have their first playoff game, and they have happened to them kind of like there's 2 playoff games that come to mind, or 3 actually. There's the 2005 divisional against Denver. Yep. There's the 20. Do you remember the 2009 wild card against the Ravens where I think Brady threw a pick right away?
Oh yeah. What you said 2009?
Yeah, they lost in the wild card round at home to Baltimore. Do you?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I just remember Brady threw a pick right away. And then the other one's obviously the Jets game. The can't wait Bart Scott last time they ever won a playoff game or made the playoffs. But no, I think that's what's going to happen to them because at this point, too, it's just like eventually, look, you're going to have to ride the Devil's magic to New Orleans or eventually the Devil's going to come and get you.
Yeah.
The only other team I got to say that I've truly been impressed with, and I have to say, and I owe this man an apology, I don't even know if I'm sorry to the quarterback, but just to the team, and that's the Denver Broncos, because I feel like essentially what's going on is it's not that Bo Nix is a stellar quarterback. It's that Sean Payton kind of just likes to program them like robots and be like, beep, boop, beep, beep, beep. You're going to run the routes I want. Beep, boop, beep, beep, beep. Throw the ball to this player now. And that's essentially what Bo's doing, and that's why they're winning football games. PS2 still probably best corner. Actually, no, he is the best corner in the NFL right now.
Yeah. Man, Denver is so annoying. Yeah,
Another
I
game
agree.
playing during
I
our
think.
Sunday against the Colts. That's a playoff eliminator, essentially.
Oh, ooh, that's gonna be good. That's gonna be a good game. Just
But
because
we
I think
won't be
that
watching
defense.
it.
Yeah, I know, right? But that defense could like really, really do some damage to Anthony Richardson. So I really want to see that matchup. Um, yeah, Denver is so interesting because I agree with you. It feels like, and this sounds like hate because I had some tweets about Bo Nix, but he wasn't playing good football to start the year.
No.
Um, he's playing well. He's playing well within that offense. I think he is getting a big boost from his coaching. However, he's also just making better throws. I think back to that game against the Browns when he made that on a 92-yard touchdown. That was a sick throw. You're looking at like, holy shit, like that was legit. If another guy had done that, we would have been like, that's legit. So I got to give Bo Nix his flowers. I think he has that team kind of where they want them. Troy Franklin is like really creating a lot of space in that offense. I know he's not like his numbers aren't like eye popping, but I think he is creating a lot of space in that offense. And as a result, Marvin Mims is eating, and Cortland Sutton is obviously still one of the best. I think the best jump ball receiver in the league right now. So
Javonte Williams is playing really well.
yep, yeah, their line is running, and they have a nice rotation of backs. The Estime that he can run. So I'm like, oh, I think they kind of got something going over there.
And also, they have a really good offensive line as well. That's the other
Yeah.
thing as well. That's why, like, when I look at like Drake, where I'm just like, hey, if you get him this, you get him that. Like, eventually, he's gonna be a top echelon quarterback. If he can end up being what Josh Allen either is or has been, I'm fine. I'm not talking about this year's Josh Allen because this year's Josh Allen's probably gonna win. He's my MVP vote if you're casting votes right now.
He?
Look, it's just the fact that
he's
like
fucking balling, man.
He's doing
so
that, but then
sick.
also even in the fact too that, like, look, I'm going to say this right now, their defense is going to be a problem come playoff time. Their defense,
it's a mess.
Their defense is a mess. Their line doesn't really have anyone that's like scares you. The one guy I do like on their defense was Christian Benford in the secondary.
He's so good.
Yeah. And then Matt Milano too, who I desperately wanted in New England when he was a free agent.
Yep.
Bring the Boston kid home. But with Buffalo though, they were the level of disrespect this year for them, and I feel like Josh Allen is that quarterback too that will always receive that disrespect until he wins a Lombardi. Where it's, oh, hey, you're this, but you don't have that. It's kind of like, oh, you can have similar accolades to what Patrick has, but you don't have what Patrick's got 3 of. So that's the big thing there. And then even, I feel like for the first time in a very long time for the NFL playoffs, there's not going to be a clear-cut winner going in. There's not a team where you can look at and be like, yeah, they're the team. Obviously, like, Kansas City's going to have that killer instinct. But then with them, it's like, does their magic run out? With Detroit, it's, does the pressure succumb to you? Because think about that. That's the one thing Kansas City has going for them, is the fact that they know how to handle the pressure. Meanwhile, all the other teams, Baltimore, look, we've known what's happened for years there. Pittsburgh's looked really good, but I just want to see how Russ can do in those high pressure situations. Christmas Day against the Kansas City Chiefs. What does he do?
Yeah.
Houston, I still don't think. I know they whooped us, but they like.
I don't think they're very good.
I think CJ Stroud spent too much time on his podcast this past summer, and defense. I think defense. There's also that picture of that really ugly older guy that people show. It's like CJ Stroud when defenses get film on him, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I think Stroud is playing well. I think
it's a Collins merchant.
No,
I
don't
but
disagree.
we saw what happened when Nico went out.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't disagree.
He muted himself again, folks.
Sorry, I keep muting myself. I think I think his line is a lot worse than anyone seems to be like acknowledging. I know the names sound really good, but I mean, he's taking a lot of sacks. Now, a lot of those are also on him. He's just kind of holding the football. I thought their receiving crew would be a lot better, would play a lot better. And then obviously it hasn't because, Stephon Diggs is hurt. Nico Collins has been in and out of the lineup.
Tank only really had that one good game against the Patriots.
Yeah, Tank Dell's, a Marcus Jones merchant. It's,
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't love their skill position guys like I thought I would. I thought Xavier Hutchinson they have down there as well. I really like, but I don't know that they're a good team. I think they're fine. I think they're just setting up to be whacked on wild card weekend.
Yeah, they're that kind of team where, like, look, that's why when I look at a lot of teams, like the Colts, for example, like making a playoff push, I'm like, they're going to get in just to get your ass kicked on wild card weekend. Like, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
really worth it for the long term picture. Even a team like Cincinnati or Dallas, the one team though I can look at and say like, hey, they could either win wild card weekend or make some noise is the LA Chargers. But then you said that we were going to whack them week 17. Do you want to elaborate on that?
The Patriots had just lost, and I was full of rage. You look at the schedule, and you're like, all right, who can I say we're gonna whack that'll get people to like? I was like, the Chargers. And I'm like, I don't know. I do think they can whack the Chargers. I think they are like of the good teams left on the schedule, right? You play Buffalo twice, and obviously the Chargers. I'm like, could I see them whacking the Bills? No, I can't see that
I can't see them
happening.
stealing one.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a whacking. It's going to be like 27-24. Like, hey, all right. Like, I think they can come out there and put it on the Chargers. Just because that's like like if there's going to be an upset win like that, if they're going to like upset anyone in fashion, it's going to be the Chargers. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, we're going to whack the Chargers.
Kind of like what they did on Christmas Eve last year against the Denver Broncos.
Exactly. Someone's getting fucked up. Someone's just getting fucked up.
So before we go into some other stuff, I want to ask you quickly: what's worse on Sunday, Kyler Murray being Mighty Mouse or Chad Riley kicking a game-winning field goal?
Kyler Murray, I'm happy for Chad. I hope he does kick a game-winning field goal. Like, whatever, man. Like, I think the Patriots definitely moved on too quickly, but I also think
they have a kicker with a cool name on the practice squad now, though.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I did see that. I don't know. With the Ryland thing, I just I can see it being a situation where it was just better to be somewhere else.
It was all mental.
Somewhere else. Yeah, it wasn't. Yep. I don't think it was going to work for him here, and so I'm happy for him. I'm like, oh, cool. Like it was never going to happen here because you just got in your head, which is fine. It happens. We hear that it happens to kickers all the time. So you got the yips. Fuck it. Go somewhere else. Kind of restart there, and I'm glad it's happening. Glad it's happening for him.
Is it kind of funny to think? So earlier I was talking about college football and quarterback performances I was disappointed by.
Yeah.
Is it kind of funny now to say that people are viewing Quinn Ewers or Carson Beck as potential AJ McCarron upgrades in the NFL, which isn't really an upgrade?
Yeah. I don't
think this year's quarterback class is as good as people are thinking.
No, I think it's bad. I think people are hoping. We're hoping. They're like, oh, a couple guys will sneak in because you're always like, I don't think people like admitting that there's a bad quarterback class, right? Like no matter what, there's going to be a quarterback who's going to go really early. There are going to be a bunch of quarterbacks who just go early because they're the best quarterbacks. But I think of the what year was that? 2021, 22? Yeah, when Kenny Pickett was the only first rounder. I think that can happen again this year, where it's kind of just like these guys aren't that good. Like we're hoping they're that good because like
my team needs a quarterback.
It's just like it's Cam Ward and everyone else.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like I know there's
Carson Beck. Let me just for a second. Whew. Someone is gonna take him on day 2 and get their GM fired immediately. It's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna be hilarious. I am not a Carson Beck guy. He can. Holy cow! I do not think he can play.
Looks like said the sloth.
But, does.
Because that's the thing too, because I'll say this right now, Gunnar Stockton looked better in the second half than Carson Beck did in the first half.
Absolutely.
Like Gunnar was out there, make really good plays off cue, really rollout was really well. Other quarterbacks I do look at, and also I already have a guy for the Patriots, and I know it's not a huge position to need, but there is a player at a certain offensive position that I have fallen in love with, and it's Cam Scatterbo out of ASU.
Oh, I'm unfamiliar with this game. I don't watch a lot of Arizona State.
I don't either, but I watched the Big 12 championship, and I'm like, he can run, he can catch. He's that perfect guy because let's be honest, the Kevin Harris thing hasn't really worked out well. And I also want to say this with the Patriots as well. For as bad as they are, Antonio Gibson has been a really nice piece that I don't know what his deal is.
Good.
I'd bring him back, but then also too, I'd have Cam come in there because you could probably get Cam second or third rounder because there's only one running back going in the first round, and I doubt his college production is going to be what it is in the what he's done in college will translate. Ashton Genty. And I'm not here to say he's going to be bad. I'm not here to say he's going to be bad. I'm just saying the Mountain West and the NFL are two different worlds. If you were doing what you're doing in the Big Ten or the SEC, I'd be like, okay, I'll buy it. But
level of competition, I agree.
The Mountain West is the Mountain West.
I think he'll be a good back, but I think he's just going to be a good back.
Yeah, right? He's not.
People are like, he's going to be like generational. And I'm like, I think he's just going to be a good back. He's going to give you, 800, 900 a year. He's going to give you a couple where he, shows you a little bit of juice at 1200, but like he's
not AP.
Yeah, he's going to be good. He's just going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I get with Cam. Like I'll find some stuff for you, but like I just watch what he can do and the fact that he's able to get in there and break the seams. Because even this year too, Ramondre hasn't been bad either. It's just running backs that position you always kind of have to, restock up on. And there's and like I said, I've seen the one game against BYU, the weird one where the fans stormed the field and they had to clear them off, and then the Big 12 championship where they dog walked Iowa State. And then this year, look, obviously, I'm pretty sure you're not too happy with a certain team not making it in. And also, that's another quarterback, by the way, that could potentially get a GM fired is Jalen Milroe because
he's
built like a tree, but he throws like a tree.
Yeah, I think Jalen Milroe is going to be someone who he's going to get a GM fired, and then he's going to get the next GM like a mega deal. I think he just kind of needs a little more time than most GMs are going to be able to give him. So I think whoever hires him is going to get fired. Whoever drafts him is going to get fired. But the next guy is going to turn him into a superstar. Just watch.
Yeah, exactly. He's that guy that goes like top of the first round where you're kind of like, really? And then that's what happens there. But no, with the college football playoff, like I'm on the mindset they got it right. I just don't like how they gave Oregon this like goofy path where it's like, hey, your first game is Tennessee or Ohio State, and then if you win that, you're probably going to be playing Georgia.
Yeah, they I don't know. I was looking at it as well. I was like, this doesn't really make a ton of sense to me, like the way they made the bracket, but like I understand it was the best teams from the big the four best teams from the Big Five, the Power Five conferences. I get it, but like the matchups feel imbalanced. So I think we're going to see like a decent football game this week, and then next week it's going to be a slaughter.
I mean, this week we're going to get a football game that's going to be 14-10, and we all love it because it's Army and Navy. But I feel like you're going to get, like, for example, I'm going to say it straight up. I think Notre Dame potentially dog walks Indiana. I like Curtis Rourke. I like him as a quarterback, but Indiana's one game against a big opponent. They absolutely got blown out by Ohio State. The only game I see really that has the potential to be close is that game. The other one I wouldn't be shocked at too. For as good as Clemson's looked, I think there's a world where they get blown out by Texas.
Clemson?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Texas is Texas might be my favorite. I think they can they can deliver a whacking. I think they're the team that I think can really do it. I don't really buy into Clemson. But but then what happens the week after, right? Because they then play Arizona, right?
Yeah, Arizona. They play Arizona.
So like, will that be a good matchup? If they have to play Texas, I think Texas is just gonna, Texas is gonna dogwalk them. And if Clemson goes, I think, obviously, I think if Clemson goes, I think Arizona has a chance.
So I'm just looking up the whole thing right now just to see everything. Oh, never mind. I click on one like it leads me to every single bowl game listed. But that's the thing too, where it's like I don't think this is going to be like March Madness, where you see like a random upset where first to worst is a lot closer.
Yeah,
you're gonna see. I guarantee you, like whether because Oregon's the Rose Bowl, but like the Sugar Bowl in Atlanta, I think that's potentially Georgia and Notre Dame. Georgia will kill them. You're gonna see some bloodbaths. You're gonna see some ugly games. Like if Georgia, I'll say this right now too. I don't know how much. I know you're not much of a sports gambler. I'm a sports gambler. Actually made a decent amount of change. I did Arizona and Oregon because I will not for the life of me buy into James Franklin into a big game until he does it. But you're gonna see some games where if Georgia's like a pick'em favorite, you basically pound the dogs. Take the dogs and you don't even think to second guess it. But with Penn State even too, like for them.
Yep.
Yeah, they have all this stuff, and I know it's a big game, but like you're playing an SMU team that looked, even in defeat, they rallied and looked good against Clemson. And I would take Clemson over Penn State. So what's that to say about what the Nittany Lions are going to do with, Keegan Michael Key at head coach?
Yeah, that bracket doesn't really interest me all that much. I think whoever goes to, whoever plays Boise State's in trouble. I think I agree though. I think it is Penn State that goes, and then Penn State gets themselves in a little bit of trouble against the Boise State rushing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like this whole college football playoff, it's a lot of fun, but for the longest time too, like, and I watch College Game Day weekly, but I love how every week it's the same old hypotheticals where I'm just like, guys, just wait until we get to the final bracket, and then unveil it. Just every week it's like the fact that they do it all the time here too. And here's the other thing too: the fact that they show that committee basically sitting in a room where they look like they'd rather be anywhere else doesn't really do any excitement. Where everyone's just like, yeah, like football, like no, get into it. You're watching football for 12 hours, for the love of God. That's just how I view that. One more thing though, Sunday, bold Patriot prediction.
Bold Patriot prediction. Let's see. Bold Patriot prediction. I think Christian Gonzalez has his first bad game.
I can see that just because Marvin Harrison Jr. has been this like player. A lot of people. He's this year's Bijan, where not he's been misused, but he's just been not met expectations that were sky high.
Yeah.
Another one I can see is Kyle Duggar having a big game against Trey McBride.
No way. That is bold. I like that. Kyle Duggar's been he's been tough. He's
also been hurt though.
Since he got back from the ankle injury. Yeah, it's last week was the first game where he like was playing like faster. He was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like we're kind of getting there." So I'm wondering if the bye week getting another week off that ankle gets him right, because maybe I can see that. You're kind of talking me into this. Like, hold on now, because I was like, wait, no, Duggar's like been really step slow, but I'm like, wait a minute, he kind of turned it on last week, and then you see the scenarios, like, boom, that could be fun. That is fun. I like that.
That's all I'm looking for because after 4 games we have to go 8 months without watching them play. So I'm just gonna treat every game like it's just this, because before you know it, it'll be the playoffs, and before you know it, the Patriots won't be playing football, and then we'll be on to the draft, and then that's where things really get fun and interesting. But for now, it's just enjoy it all, enjoy it while you can. That's why I don't want to be fickle down the stretch, because I know there's only 4 more times we get to do this year until next September.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be fun anyway. Unless the team ends up doing something weird, or Drake gets hurt, I'm all for it. Like, let's just have some fun. The coaching staff isn't going anywhere. Please kind of relax, because that's not really going to happen. Just kind of buckle in, let them cook.
Exactly. You know what? And hey, we use cook in the right way here. We don't use cook in the wrong way here. But guys, that's going to do it. Episode 333 in the bag. McGarvin and I were here for 300, and before you know it, it'll be the off season, and you know what? The squad will be back. But anyway, guys, McGarvin and I had a blast today. We hope you did too. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.